Danny Price stood in his office watching the sun rise over New Haven Colony. The orange light spread across the farming fields and reflected off the dome buildings. Everything looked peaceful. 3 years of hard work had turned this empty planet into a home for 800 people. Danny felt proud every morning when he saw what they had built together. His communication console beeped. The screen showed an incoming message from a passing freighter. Danny accepted the call and saw the tired face of Captain Lisa Grant. She commanded a cargo ship that traveled between the frontier colonies. Danny had met her twice before when she stopped to trade supplies. "Danny, I need to warn you about something serious," Lisa said without greeting. Her voice was tense. "The Vakoth Collective is heading your way." Danny felt his stomach drop. Everyone on the frontier knew about the Vakoth. They were reptilian aliens who raided isolated human settlements. They took supplies, equipment, and sometimes people to sell as slaves. 4 colonies had been hit in the past 6 months. "Are you certain?" Danny asked. Lisa nodded. "My crew picked up their fleet movements 3 days ago. We tracked their course and ran the calculations. New Haven is directly in their path. They'll arrive in about 48 hours. Maybe less. Why would they target us?" "You fit their pattern perfectly," Lisa explained. "Remote location, valuable resources, small population, and minimal defenses. To them, you look like easy prey." Danny thanked Lisa and ended the call. He sat down heavily in his chair. 48 hours. Not enough time to evacuate everyone. Not enough time to get help from other colonies or military forces. The nearest human military base was 3 weeks away at maximum speed. He called an emergency council meeting. Within 20 minutes, 5 people gathered in his office. Greg Palmer was chief of security, a former police officer who had joined the colony to escape city life. Kate Morrison led the engineering teams and knew every system in the colony. Ryan Hughes ran the medical center with a staff of 3 doctors and 6 nurses. Nicole Sanders managed all the agricultural operations. Each of them looked worried when Danny explained the situation. "Can we evacuate?" Ryan asked. Kate shook her head. "We have 3 transport shuttles. Each can carry maybe 80 people in an emergency. That's less than half the colony." "And where would they go?" "The nearest safe colony is 2 weeks away." "What about fighting them?" Greg suggested. "We have some weapons." "Not enough," Danny said. "I checked our inventory. We have 40 hunting rifles, a dozen pistols, and some tools that could be used as weapons. The Vakoth will come with plasma weapons and armor. They're professional raiders." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the situation. They couldn't run, and they couldn't fight, in a normal way. Nicole spoke up quietly. "Then we need to fight in an abnormal way." Danny looked at her. "What do you mean?" "They expect us to be helpless farmers and scientists," Nicole said. "They think this will be easy. What if we use that against them? What if we make them think they're walking into a simple raid, but we turn the colony itself into a weapon?" Greg leaned forward. "A trap. You're talking about setting a trap." "Exactly," Nicole said. "We know every inch of this colony. We built it. We know how the systems work, where the weak points are, what can be weaponized. The Vakoth don't know any of that." Kate started nodding. "The mining explosives. The maintenance tunnels. The environmental controls. We could rig dozens of surprises throughout the colony." Ryan added his thoughts. "I've read about Vakoth biology. They have specific vulnerabilities. If we're smart about it, we can use those against them." Danny felt hope rising in his chest. It was crazy and dangerous, but it was better than surrendering or dying without a fight. "We have 48 hours. Can we do this?" Kate pulled out her tablet and started making notes. "We'll need everyone working together. Engineering can handle the structural traps and explosives. Security can train people in guerrilla tactics. Medical can prepare toxins and treat casualties. Agriculture has plants that are poisonous to most alien species." "What about the computer systems?" Greg asked. "I'll talk to Kevin Ross," Kate said. "He's our best programmer. He can probably turn the colony's automated systems against the raiders." Danny stood up. All right, here's what we do. You coordinate all the engineering work. Greg, you train every able-bodied person in combat tactics. Nicole, you work on biological weapons. Ryan, you prepare the medical center for casualties and provide information about Vakoth vulnerabilities. I'll organize the evacuation of children and non-fighters to the deep shelters. What about telling everyone? Ryan asked. This is going to terrify people. Danny took a deep breath. I'll make an announcement in 1 hour. I'll tell them the truth. Raiders are coming, and we're going to fight back. Anyone who can't or won't fight will be protected in the shelters. Everyone else will have a job to do. The council members left to start their preparations. Danny sat alone for a moment, thinking about what he was asking his people to do. These were farmers, engineers, teachers, and families. They had come to New Haven to build a peaceful life, not to become warriors. But the galaxy hadn't given them a choice. The Vakoth were coming, and there was no cavalry riding to the rescue. New Haven would stand alone. Danny opened the colony-wide communication channel. His voice would reach every home, every workplace, every person in the settlement. He chose his words carefully. This is Administrator Price with an emergency announcement. I've received intelligence that a Vakoth raiding force will reach our colony in approximately 48 hours. I won't lie to you about how serious this is. The Vakoth are dangerous, and we don't have enough time to evacuate or receive outside help. Kate Morrison walked through the colony with her engineering team. Looking at every building with new eyes, she no longer saw homes and workplaces. She saw weapons. Every structure could become a trap. Every system could be turned against the invaders. Her first stop was the maintenance tunnels. New Haven had an extensive network of underground passages that connected all the major buildings. The colonists used them to move between locations during the planet's harsh winter storms. Now these tunnels would become secret highways for defenders. We need to install hidden access points, Kate told her team. Places where our people can pop up, take shots at the raiders, and disappear before they can respond. Also, we should rig some tunnel sections to collapse. If the Vakoth figure out we're using the tunnels, we can trap them underground. Jake Foster joined Kate's group. He was responsible for mining explosives, the charges used to break apart rock and extract valuable minerals. Jake had boxes of these explosives stored in the mining depot. Now he was repurposing them into weapons. I can place charges under the main pathways, Jake explained to Kate. We'll cover them and make everything look normal. When the raiders walk over them, boom. I can also rig the charges to be directional, so the blast goes up and out, not down into our tunnels. Kate approved the plan. Make sure you connect everything to a remote detonation system. We need precise control over when things blow up. While Kate and Jake worked on explosives, Greg Palmer was turning ordinary colonists into fighters. He gathered 200 volunteers in the colony's gymnasium. Most had never fired a weapon in combat. Many looked scared. Greg understood that fear. He had been a police officer for 15 years before joining the colony, but he had never faced anything like this. Listen up, Greg said loudly. I know most of you aren't soldiers, neither am I, but we have advantages the Vakoth don't expect. We know this colony. We know where to hide, where to shoot from, and where to run. They'll be walking blind into our home. He split the volunteers into teams of 10. Each team would be responsible for one section of the colony. They would learn their area perfectly, know every hiding spot, every angle of fire, every escape route. Amy Chen helped Greg with weapons training. She had been a competitive shooter back on Earth and knew how to make every bullet count. She taught the colonists about aiming for weak points in armor. The Vakoth wear heavy armor on their chests and backs, Amy explained. Don't waste ammunition shooting there. Aim for joints, the neck, the face. Even good armor has gaps. She demonstrated on a drawing. Their knee joints are exposed when they walk. Their helmet visors can crack if you hit them right. Learn to aim small and shoot accurately. In the agricultural dome, Nicole Sanders was creating a different kind of weapon. She walked through rows of earth plants that had been imported to the colony. Many of these plants were beautiful but deadly. Foxglove, nightshade, oleander, and castor beans all contained powerful toxins. Nicole wore protective gloves as she carefully extracted poisonous compounds from the plants. She created concentrated forms of these toxins and stored them in sealed containers. Some would be spread on surfaces where raiders might touch them. Others would be added to water supplies in specific buildings. The most potent would be turned into aerosols that could be released in enclosed spaces. Ryan Hughes provided crucial information to Nicole. Vakoth biology is different from human, he explained. Their scales provide some protection, but their respiratory systems are sensitive. Airborne toxins will affect them faster than contact poisons. Also, their blood chemistry reacts badly to certain alkaloids that humans can tolerate. Nicole nodded and adjusted her formulas. She was creating weapons specifically designed to hurt the Vakoth while being less dangerous to any humans who might be exposed. Kevin Ross sat in the colony's computer control room, surrounded by screens and cables. He was the systems administrator who kept all of New Haven's automated systems running smoothly. Now he was turning those systems into weapons. Kevin started by creating a false database. If the Vakoth hacked into the colony's computers, they would find records showing even more valuable resources than actually existed. He wanted them fully committed to the raid, not just doing a quick hit and run. Then Kevin programmed the colony's automated systems to recognize Vakoth biosignatures. The colony's sensors could detect body heat, movement, and chemical signatures. Once the battle started, doors would lock when Vakoth approached. Lights would go out in areas where colonists needed darkness to hide. Atmospheric controls would make certain rooms uncomfortable or dangerous for the aliens. "Can you vent the atmosphere in specific sections?" Kate asked Kevin when she came to check on his progress. "Yes. But it takes time," Kevin replied. "I can't do it instantly. But if we can trap raiders in a sealed room, I can slowly reduce the oxygen until they pass out." Kate smiled grimly. "Add that to our options." As the first day of preparations ended, Danny walked through the colony checking on progress. Everywhere he looked, he saw people working with desperate determination. Parents who would normally be tucking children into bed were instead learning to assemble improvised explosive devices. Teachers were practicing with rifles. Scientists were calculating blast radiuses and poison dispersal patterns. Danny found Greg Palmer coordinating the placement of ammunition caches throughout the colony. "How's the training going?" Danny asked. "Better than expected," Greg said. "People are scared, but they're focused. Fear can be useful if you channel it right. These people are fighting for their families. That's powerful motivation." "The casualties?" Danny asked quietly. Greg's face became serious. "We'll take casualties. No way around it. Even with all our preparations, the Vakoth have superior weapons and armor. Some of our people won't survive this." Danny nodded. He knew that. He had accepted it when he made the decision to fight. But accepting it didn't make it easier. On the second day, the pace of preparation became frantic. Kate's teams finished rigging the last buildings with traps. Jake placed his final explosive charges and tested all the detonation systems. Nicole sealed her toxin containers and distributed them to the teams who would deploy them. Greg ran his volunteers through final combat drills. Amy Chen positioned sharpshooters in elevated locations throughout the colony. She found the best vantage points where shooters could fire down on raiders while remaining concealed. She marked distances and calculated angles so her people would know exactly where to aim. Kevin finished programming the final automated responses into the colony's computer system. He created multiple backup controls in case the Vakoth tried to hack or disable the primary systems. He also set up hidden cameras throughout the colony so Danny could watch the battle unfold and direct defenders to where they were needed most. As the second evening approached, Danny called all the fighters to gather in the central plaza one final time. Children and non-combatants had already moved to the deep shelters. Only those who would fight remained above ground. Danny looked at the faces around him. His people, farmers, engineers, teachers, and families who had become warriors because they had no other choice. They looked tired, but determined. "In a few hours the Vakoth will arrive," Danny said. They think this will be easy. They think we're helpless. Let's show them what humans do when you threaten our homes." He paused. "Stay smart. Use the plans we made. Watch out for each other. And remember, we don't have to kill all of them. We just have to hurt them badly enough that they wish they never came here." The Vakoth ships appeared in the sky just before dawn. 3 large vessels descended through the atmosphere with their engines roaring. Danny watched them on his screens from the command bunker. His heart pounded, but his hands remained steady on the controls. Inside the lead ship, Commander Zektar reviewed his battle plan. He had raided 12 colonies in his career. This would be his easiest yet. The intelligence reports showed a small farming settlement with minimal defenses. His force of 200 warriors would overwhelm any resistance in minutes. "Land in the central plaza," Zektar ordered his pilot. "Deploy all ground teams immediately. Team 1 secures the food stores. Team 2 takes the medical facility. Team 3 captures the mining equipment. Team 4 finds the administrators and makes them watch while we load our ships." The Vakoth ships landed with heavy thuds that shook the ground. Ramps extended and raiders poured out in organized formations. They wore dark armor that gleamed in the early morning light. Each carried plasma weapons that could burn through metal. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met real resistance. Zektar stepped onto New Haven's soil and looked around. The colony was silent. Buildings stood with doors open and lights on. There were signs of recent activity, but no people. It was strange but not alarming. The humans probably fled to hide when they saw the ships approaching. "Spread out and search," Zektar commanded. "If you find colonists, round them up but don't hurt them yet. Healthy slaves sell for better prices." The Vakoth split into their assigned teams and moved through the empty streets. Their heavy boots echoed off the buildings. They expected to find frightened humans cowering in corners. They found nothing. Team 1 reached the agricultural dome first. 15 Vakoth warriors entered the large structure filled with earth plants and farming equipment. The dome was warm and humid. Perfect conditions for growing food. The raiders spread out to search behind equipment and storage containers. In the command bunker, Danny watched the raiders enter the dome. His finger hovered over a control marked with Nicole's handwriting. He waited until all 15 Vakoth were inside, and the last one had cleared the entrance. "Now," Danny said quietly and pressed the button. Hidden nozzles throughout the agricultural dome released a fine mist into the air. The Vakoth didn't notice at first. The mist was nearly invisible and odorless, but within seconds, the raiders started experiencing problems. The first Vakoth to react grabbed his throat. His scales, normally a healthy green, started turning gray and blistering. He tried to call out, but his voice came as a choked gasp. Around him, other raiders dropped to their knees, clawing at their faces. The toxins Nicole had created were reacting with their respiratory systems. The team leader realized they were under attack and ordered a retreat. His warriors stumbled toward the exits, but Kevin had remotely locked the dome's doors. The Vakoth pulled on handles and beat against the transparent walls, but the dome had been built to withstand storms. It easily resisted their panicked efforts to escape. Danny watched grimly as the raiders inside collapsed one by one. It wasn't pleasant to watch, but he reminded himself these aliens had come to enslave his people. This was war, not murder. Team 2 had better luck initially. 20 Vakoth entered the mining equipment depot, where Jake had stored vehicles and tools. They moved cautiously between the large machines. Weapons ready, the team leader reported back to Zektar that they had secured the depot. Greg Palmer watched from his hidden position on a nearby roof. He had a clear view of the depot's main floor. Beside him, Amy Chen aimed her rifle carefully. Around them, 10 other colonists waited with weapons ready. "Wait for it," Greg whispered into his radio. More Vakoth were still entering the depot. He wanted as many as possible in the kill zone. When 30 raiders were clustered in the depot's center, Greg pressed his detonator. Jake's mining charges exploded in a carefully calculated sequence. The blasts didn't destroy the building but sent shaped waves of force and shrapnel through the raider formation. The explosions were devastating. Vakoth armor protected against small arms fire but not against focused explosive force. Raiders flew through the air or were torn apart by shrapnel. The ones on the edges survived, but found themselves disoriented and injured. "Fire!" Greg shouted. The colonists opened up from their elevated positions. They aimed for the weak points Amy had taught them about. Neck joints, helmet visors, knee articulations. The surviving Vakoth tried to return fire but couldn't locate their attackers. The humans had superior positions and disappeared behind cover after each shot. At the medical facility, Team 3 walked into a different kind of nightmare. The building appeared normal as they entered. Equipment sat on shelves. Medicine cabinets lined the walls. The raiders moved through the corridors searching for valuable supplies. Amy Chen had positioned sharpshooters throughout the medical building. They hid in closets, behind doors, and in ceiling crawl spaces. As the Vakoth spread out searching rooms, the colonists struck. The first raider died when a colonist shot him through the neck joint from a hidden closet. The Vakoth dropped without making a sound. His teammates didn't notice immediately. The colonists picked off raiders one by one in different rooms, using the building's layout to isolate and eliminate targets. When the Vakoth finally realized they were under attack, they tried to group together for mutual protection. But the medical building's narrow corridors worked against them. Kate had secretly rigged several hallways to collapse. As raiders rushed through certain passages, the ceilings came down, crushing some and separating the survivors into isolated pockets. Back in the command bunker, Danny watched his screens with growing satisfaction. The battle was only 15 minutes old, and the Vakoth had already lost nearly half their deployed forces, but he knew this was just the beginning. Zektar stood in the central plaza, his confidence evaporating. His communications were filled with screams and desperate reports. Teams were being ambushed. Raiders were dying. This wasn't supposed to happen. "All teams fall back to the plaza," Zektar ordered. "We regroup and then advance together." But falling back proved harder than advancing. Kate's engineering teams had prepared the streets carefully. As raiders tried to retreat, they found paths blocked by collapsed buildings. The alternate routes led them through areas where colonists waited in ambush. Kevin activated more of his prepared traps. Doors locked remotely, trapping small groups of raiders in buildings. Lights went out in key areas, giving the defending humans advantages in darkness. The colony's public address system suddenly blasted discordant sounds that made communication impossible. One group of 10 Vakoth tried to retreat through what appeared to be a clear street. They were halfway down the road when Jake triggered another set of charges. This explosion was different from the others. The charges were placed in the buildings on both sides of the street. When they detonated, the buildings collapsed inward, burying the street in rubble and crushing the raiders underneath. In the agricultural dome, the toxin had done its work. All 15 Vakoth inside were dead or dying. Danny ordered that area sealed until the toxins dispersed naturally. He marked it on his map with a red X. The mining depot had become a fortress for the surviving Vakoth. About a dozen raiders had taken cover inside and were returning fire at the colonists around them. But they were pinned down. Every time they tried to move, accurate fire from hidden positions drove them back to cover. Greg decided not to waste colonist lives digging them out. Instead, he called Kate. "Can you seal that building?" Quote, "Give me 2 minutes," Kate replied. Kate accessed the depot's systems remotely. The large bay doors closed and locked. The ventilation system shut down. She started slowly pumping carbon dioxide into the sealed building. The Vakoth inside would pass out from oxygen deprivation long before they suffocated. When they woke up, if they woke up, they would be prisoners. Zektar managed to gather about 60 of his warriors back to the plaza. They formed a defensive circle, weapons pointed outward. The commander was finally understanding what had happened. The humans hadn't run. They had prepared. This whole colony was a weapon designed to kill raiders. "We need to reach the ships," Zektar said to his remaining officers. "Fighting withdrawal. Keep formation tight." The Vakoth began moving back toward their landing site. They walked slowly, covering each other. Every shadow might hide a human. Every sound might signal another attack. Danny watched them move. He had expected this. The raiders would try to escape to their ships. He had planned for that too. "Jake, are you in position?" Danny asked over the radio. "Ready," Jake replied. He was in a hidden spot near the landing pad with the detonators for his final trap. "Let them get closer," Danny said. "We finish this." Night fell over New Haven like a heavy blanket. The burning wreckage of the Vakoth ships cast flickering shadows across the colony. Zektar huddled with his remaining 60 warriors in a defensive position near the ruined landing pad. They were trapped, and everyone knew it. "We hold this position until dawn," Zektar ordered. "Then we fight our way to the one ship that might still fly. Any warrior too injured to move gets left behind." His officers nodded grimly. It was a brutal decision but necessary. The Vakoth prided themselves on never leaving warriors behind. But survival had to come first. If they stayed in this colony much longer, none of them would leave alive. What Zektar didn't know was that the darkness belonged to the humans. Danny had planned for this. His people had grown up with night vision technology, had trained in these buildings for 2 days, and knew every corner and shadow. The Vakoth were sitting in unknown territory with failing equipment and growing fear. Kate Morrison moved through the maintenance tunnels with a team of 20 colonists. They carried weapons, tools, and more of Jake's explosives. Their goal was to cut off any escape route the Vakoth might use to reach the damaged but potentially functional ship. "Place charges here, here, and here," Kate whispered, pointing to support pillars under a major walkway. "When I give the signal, we bring the whole structure down. They'll have to go around. And when they do, Greg's teams will be waiting." Above ground, Amy Chen and her sharpshooters moved like ghosts between buildings. They had removed their shoes to move silently. Each carried a rifle and knew exactly where their targets were. The Vakoth had set up lights around their defensive position, which actually made them easier to see in the darkness. Amy positioned herself on a rooftop 300 meters from the Vakoth position. Through her scope, she could see individual raiders. She aimed carefully at a Vakoth, who appeared to be an officer based on his armor markings. Her finger squeezed the trigger gently. The shot echoed across the colony. The Vakoth officer dropped. Immediately, the other raiders opened fire at where they thought the shot came from. Their plasma bolts lit up the night but hit nothing. Amy had already moved to a new position. 2 minutes later, another shot rang out from a different direction. Another raider fell. Then another shot from yet another angle. The Vakoth started to panic. They couldn't see their attackers. They were being picked off one by one, and there was nothing they could do about it. "Turn off the lights," Zektar shouted. "We're making ourselves targets." The lights went out. Now the Vakoth sat in darkness, unable to see the colonists who hunted them. It was better than being illuminated targets, but not much better. Every sound made them jump. Every shadow might contain a human with a weapon. Ryan Hughes had been studying the Vakoth biology for 2 days. He knew things about them that even they didn't know about themselves. Now he was putting that knowledge to use in ways that would horrify any ethical medical board. Ryan had discovered that Vakoth were extremely sensitive to rapid pressure changes. Their respiratory system couldn't adjust quickly like humans could. He had shared this information with Kate and Kevin, and they had prepared accordingly. A group of 12 Vakoth tried to move from the landing pad to a nearby building for better cover. Kevin tracked them on his screens. When they were all inside, he sealed the building remotely. Then he activated the atmospheric controls. The building's internal pressure began to rise rapidly. The Vakoth inside felt their ears pop painfully. Some of them clutched their heads as pressure built in their sinuses. Then Kevin reversed the process, dropping the pressure just as quickly. The effect was devastating. Several Vakoth collapsed as their internal organs struggled to equalize. Blood vessels in their brains burst. Their lungs couldn't handle the rapid changes. Within 5 minutes, all 12 raiders were either dead or unconscious from internal injuries. Greg Palmer watched this on his tactical display and felt a mix of satisfaction and horror. They were winning, but the methods they were using were brutal. He pushed those thoughts aside. There would be time for reflection later. Right now, He had a job to do. All teams, begin the final push, Greg ordered over the radio. We're not letting any of them reach that ship. Colonists emerged from hiding spots all around the Vakoth position. They didn't charge blindly. Instead, they moved methodically, using cover, firing, and moving, always staying out of reach of the raiders' return fire. It was like watching wolves take down a wounded animal. Jake Foster had one more surprise prepared. He had rigged the remaining functional ship with charges while the Vakoth were distracted. Now he triggered them. The explosions were smaller than the ones that destroyed the landing pad, but they were precise. The ship's engines died. Its communication array collapsed. Even if the Vakoth reached it, the ship would never fly again. Zektar saw his last hope literally go up in flames. His warriors were dying around him. His ships were destroyed. The humans were closing in from all sides. For a proud Vakoth commander, there was only one option left. We fight to the death, Zektar announced. We show these humans what Vakoth warriors can do. But his warriors had lost their fighting spirit. They had come expecting easy prey and found apex predators instead. Some of them started laying down their weapons. Others tried to run and were cut down by colonist fire. Danny watched it all from his command center. Part of him felt sick at the destruction. These were living beings dying on his screens. But another part of him felt fierce satisfaction. The Vakoth had come to harm his people, to take colonists as slaves. They had earned everything they were receiving. Commander Zektar, Danny said over an open channel, I'm giving you one chance. Surrender now, and your remaining warriors will be treated according to standard prisoner protocols. Keep fighting and we'll kill every last one of you. Zektar's reply was a burst of plasma fire at the nearest building. Danny sighed and closed the channel. Greg, finish it. The final assault was quick and efficient. Colonists advanced from multiple directions with overlapping fields of fire. The Vakoth tried to mount a defense, but they were outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and demoralized. One by one, they fell. Kate triggered the charges under the walkway, cutting off the last possible escape route. The explosion sent debris raining down on a group of fleeing raiders. Those who survived the blast found Greg's people waiting for them with weapons ready. 30 minutes later, it was over. 38. Vakoth threw down their weapons and raised their hands in surrender. The rest were dead, or dying. Zektar himself was among the wounded. Hit by 3 shots from colonist rifles, Greg's security teams moved in carefully to secure the prisoners. They bound the Vakoth's hands and checked them for hidden weapons. Ryan's medical team followed behind, treating the injured. Even wounded enemies deserved medical care. Danny emerged from the command bunker for the first time since the battle started. He walked through the colony looking at the damage. Buildings were collapsed. Fires still burned in places. The smell of explosives and death hung in the air. He found Greg supervising the prisoner collection. Casualties? Danny asked quietly. 3 dead, Greg replied. Kevin Ross, Lisa Barnes, and Tom Webster. Another 11 wounded, but Ryan thinks they'll all survive. 3 dead. Danny felt each loss like a physical blow. Kevin Ross had been the systems administrator whose programming had been crucial to their victory. Lisa Barnes was a teacher who had volunteered to fight despite having 2 young children. Tom Webster was a mechanic who had helped Jake place the explosives. They died protecting their home, Danny said. We'll make sure everyone remembers that. The sun began to rise on New Haven's second day after the battle. Colonists emerged from the shelters slowly. Children ran to find their parents. Families reunited with tears and hugs. The colony had survived, but it was forever changed. Ryan Hughes worked through the night, treating both humans and Vakoth. He saved 3 raiders, who would have died without his care. When asked why he bothered, Ryan simply said, "Because I'm a doctor. The battle is over." 3 days after the battle, Danny Price stood in what remained of the central plaza. Work crews were clearing debris and starting repairs. The mood in New Haven was strange, a mixture of relief, grief, and quiet pride. They had survived something that should have destroyed them. Greg Palmer approached with a data pad. The prisoner interrogations are complete. Zektar has been surprisingly cooperative. I think the defeat broke something in him. What did he tell you? Danny asked. The Vakoth Collective has been raiding human colonies for 8 months. They thought we were easy targets because we're relatively new to this region of space. Zektar says his superiors believed humans would either run or surrender without serious resistance. Danny nodded slowly. They were wrong. Very wrong, Greg agreed. But here's the important part. Zektar says there are at least 6 other raider groups operating in this sector. The Vakoth, the Krill, the Mordant, and others. They all share information about which targets are worth hitting. Danny understood immediately. So when word spreads about what happened here, it could change everything, Greg finished. Either other raiders will avoid human colonies, or they'll come in force to prove the Vakoth were just weak. That night, Danny called another council meeting. Kate, Greg, Ryan, and Nicole gathered in the rebuilt administration building. They all looked exhausted. The past week had aged them in ways that showed in their eyes more than their faces. We need to send a message, Danny said. Not just to the Vakoth, but to every raider, pirate, and hostile force in this part of space. We need to make it clear what happens when you threaten human colonies. What kind of message? Nicole asked. Danny had been thinking about this for 3 days. A broadcast. Wide spectrum, maximum range. We tell the story of what happened here. We show what humans do when pushed, and we make it clear that this wasn't luck or a fluke. This is who we are. Kate leaned forward. The Vakoth ships have powerful communication arrays. Even damaged, we could use them to send a signal that would reach dozens of systems. It would take days to propagate, but eventually, half the frontier would hear it. Do it, Danny decided. I'll record the message tomorrow. Ryan had been quiet, but now he spoke up. What about mercy? We won the battle. Do we really need to threaten the entire galaxy? This isn't about threats, Danny replied. It's about preventing the next attack. If we can make raiders think twice before targeting human colonies, we save lives. Not just here, but everywhere humans are trying to build new homes. The next morning, Danny stood in the plaza, surrounded by colonists. Kate had set up a recording system connected to the Vakoth communication array. The message Danny was about to send would be broadcast across multiple frequencies and translated into dozens of languages by the automated systems. Behind Danny, colonists stood as living witnesses to what had happened. Farmers who had become fighters, engineers who had turned their skills into weapons, families who had defended their homes against professional raiders. Begin recording, Kate said. Danny looked directly at the camera. He spoke clearly and calmly, but there was steel in his voice. My name is Danny Price, administrator of New Haven Colony on Kepler 442b. 6 days ago, a Vakoth raiding force attacked our settlement. They came with 3 ships, 200 warriors, and advanced weapons. They expected to find helpless farmers and take whatever they wanted. They were wrong. He gestured to the destroyed ships behind him. What they found instead was a community that refused to be victims. We turned our colony into a trap. We used our knowledge, our ingenuity, and our determination to defend our homes. The result is what you see here: destroyed ships, dead raiders, and a colony that still stands. Danny's voice grew stronger. I'm sending this message to anyone who preys on isolated settlements. The Vakoth thought humans were easy targets because we prefer building to fighting, because we come to the frontier to farm and research, not to make war. They mistook our peaceful intentions for weakness. He paused for emphasis. That was their fatal mistake. Humans build because we want to create something good. We explore because we're curious about the universe. We settle new worlds because we dream of better futures. But when you threaten our homes, when you try to harm our families, we become something else entirely. Side 2. Danny pointed to the colonists around him. These people are farmers, teachers, engineers, and parents. They had never fought in a war before, but when raiders came for them, They fought back with everything they had. They used mining explosives as weapons. They turned agricultural compounds into toxins. They weaponized their own home and used it to destroy an enemy that should have been superior in every way. His voice became quieter but more intense. The Vakoth raided human colonies for 8 months. They took our people as slaves. They stole our resources. They thought we were easy prey. New Haven is sending a different message. We are not prey. We are humans, and we protect what's ours. Danny looked directly at the camera. To any raider group watching this, leave human colonies alone. We prefer peace. We would rather trade than fight, cooperate than conflict. But if you force us to fight, we will turn every advantage we have against you. We will use our technology, our creativity, and our absolute refusal to give up. We will make you regret ever hearing the name of our species. He gestured to the wreckage again. The Vakoth came here with 200 warriors. 38 are prisoners. The rest are dead. We lost 3 of our people. And each loss hurts us deeply, but we won because we had something the raiders didn't. We were fighting for our homes. Danny's expression softened slightly. To other human colonies listening to this, you're not alone. New Haven fought and survived. We'll share everything we learned, every tactic we used, every trap we built. If raiders come for you, you can fight back. You can win. He straightened and spoke his final words. We came to the stars to build new worlds and create better lives. We didn't come to be anyone's victims. Remember, New Haven. Remember what happens when you threaten human families. We don't start fights, but we finish them. Kate stopped the recording. The plaza was silent for a moment. Then, slowly, the colonists began to applaud. It started quietly but grew louder. They were applauding themselves, their fallen friends, and their determination to never be victims. Kate uploaded the message to the Vakoth communication array. The powerful system began broadcasting across multiple frequencies. The message would spread through space at the speed of light, reaching system after system, being picked up by ships and stations and colonies throughout the frontier. Within days, the message reached the first human military base. Admiral Patricia Stone watched it 3 times in her office. Then she immediately dispatched ships to New Haven, with supplies, weapons, and offers of support. Within 2 weeks, the message had spread to a dozen alien civilizations. Reactions varied. Some species respected the human victory. Others were angry that a new species had killed so many raiders. But everyone took note. Humans were not to be underestimated. The Vakoth Collective officially dissolved within a month. The humiliation of losing an entire raiding force to supposedly helpless colonists destroyed their reputation. Other raiders who had worked with them refused to associate with the discredited group. More importantly, attacks on human colonies dropped dramatically. Raiders who might have hit isolated settlements decided the risk wasn't worth it. Word had spread that humans were dangerous when cornered, that they fought smart instead of hard, and that they would sacrifice anything to protect their homes. 6 months after the battle, New Haven had been rebuilt. New colonists arrived, drawn by the settlement's reputation for strength and resilience. The colony population grew from 800 to 1,200. The new arrivals included military advisors, engineers who specialized in defensive systems, and families who wanted to live somewhere that had proven it could protect its people. Kate Morrison gave a presentation at a colonial defense conference. Administrators and security chiefs from 40 human settlements attended. She shared New Haven's tactics, explained their preparations, and emphasized the most important lessons. We didn't win because we had better weapons, Kate explained. We won because we knew our home better than the enemy did. We used every system, every tool, and every advantage we had. Most importantly, we fought smart instead of fighting fair. Greg Palmer added his own session on guerrilla tactics for non-military colonists. You don't need to be soldiers to defend your homes, he told the audience. You need to be clever, determined, and willing to use unconventional methods. Make your enemies fight on your terms, not theirs. Back on New Haven, life slowly returned to normal. Children played in the new Central Plaza, built over the site where the final battle had occurred. A memorial stood at the plaza's center, listing the names of Kevin Ross, Lisa Barnes, and Tom Webster. The memorial's inscription read simply, "They defended home." Danny often stood by that memorial in the evenings. He thought about the choices he had made, the colonists who had died, and the raiders they had killed. War was ugly even when necessary. He would carry those memories for the rest of his life, but he also saw children playing without fear. He saw families building homes. He saw a community that had been tested and survived. New Haven had become more than just a colony. It was proof that humans could defend themselves in a dangerous galaxy. One evening, Ryan Hughes joined Danny by the memorial. They stood in comfortable silence for a while before Ryan spoke. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Danny considered the question. "We did what was necessary. The Vakoth gave us no choice. But yes, I think we did right. We protected our people. We sent a message that might prevent other attacks. We proved that humans belong in this part of space. The galaxy sees us differently now," Ryan said. "Good," Danny replied. "Let them see us as we really are. We build when we can. We cooperate when possible. But when someone threatens what's ours, we fight back with everything we have." They watched the sunset together. The orange light spread across the colony, painting the new buildings in warm colors. In the distance, farming crews worked in fields that had been torn up during the battle. Engineers inspected the repaired power systems. Teachers prepared lessons for students who had hidden in shelters during the fighting. New Haven lived. It thrived. And across the frontier, other human colonies looked at their example and prepared their own defenses. The message had spread further than Danny could have imagined. Humans were newcomers to the galactic community, but they were newcomers with teeth. The Vakoth had learned that lesson too late. They came expecting easy prey and found apex predators instead. They came to raid a colony and found a death trap. And now, the entire galaxy knew. Humans protected their own. They used intelligence, creativity, and fierce determination. They turned their homes into fortresses and their disadvantages into weapons. 3 years later, no human colony had been raided. Pirates and hostile forces simply avoided them. The risk was too great. The potential cost too high. Better to find easier targets than to face humans defending their families. Danny eventually stepped down as administrator, passing leadership to younger colonists. But he stayed on New Haven, the place he had defended with such determination. He watched the colony grow to 5,000 people. He saw children who had hidden in shelters become adults who built new lives under alien suns. Sometimes, visitors came to see the colony that had become famous across human space. They walked through the memorial plaza, asked questions about the battle, and listened to the stories colonists told. And always, Danny gave them the same message he had broadcast to the galaxy. Humans prefer peace, but they will fight when necessary. They protect what's theirs, and anyone who forgets that will learn the hard way, just as the Vakoth did. New Haven stood as proof of humanity's place in the stars, not as conquerors or warriors, but as builders who refused to be victims. The colony that had turned into a death trap for alien raiders became a symbol of human determination and a warning to anyone foolish enough to threaten human homes. The message was simple but powerful. Humans don't start fights, but they always finish them. Kate and her teams began assessing the damage. Several buildings would need to be rebuilt. The landing pad was destroyed and would take months to repair. But the colony's core systems were intact. New Haven would survive. Danny stood in the central plaza as the sun rose, surrounded by his exhausted but victorious people. They had faced a force that should have overwhelmed them. They had turned their home into a weapon and used it to devastating effect. The Vakoth had learned an important lesson. Humans might look soft. They might prefer building to fighting. But when you threaten their homes and families, humans become something else entirely. They become survivors who will use every advantage, every trick, and every ounce of ingenuity to destroy anyone foolish enough to attack them. Zektar, lying in the medical center with his wounds bandaged, understood this now. He had raided 12 colonies before this one. He would never raid again. The colony that was supposed to be his easiest target had become his final defeat, and word of what happened at New Haven was about to spread across the galaxy. The Vakoth advanced toward their ships. They were 50 meters away, then 40, then 30. Zektar felt hope rising. If they could just reach the ships, they could lift off and bombard this cursed colony from orbit. Danny gave the signal. Jake pressed the detonator. The landing pad erupted. Massive mining charges that Jake had buried underneath the ships exploded simultaneously. The blast was enormous. One Vakoth ship was thrown onto its side, another lost its landing struts and crashed down at an angle. The third ship's engines exploded, sending flames shooting into the sky. The Vakoth in the plaza were knocked flat by the shockwave. When they struggled to their feet, they saw their escape route destroyed. 2 ships were clearly beyond repair. The third might fly, but it was damaged and unstable. Zektar realized with cold horror that they were trapped. His force was reduced to 60 warriors. They were surrounded by an enemy they couldn't see. Their way home was burning in front of them. For the first time in his raiding career, Zektar felt real fear. The colonists dispersed to their positions. Fighters moved to hiding spots. Engineers took positions near trap controls. Medical teams prepared the underground hospital. Kevin settled into his command station with screens showing every part of the colony. Danny went to the central command bunker, where he would coordinate the defense. On his screens, he could see the night sky. Somewhere up there, the Vakoth fleet was approaching. They were coming for an easy raid. They had no idea they were flying into a trap that would become their graveyard. Danny checked his watch. 6 hours until the estimated arrival time. New Haven was ready. Now they just had to wait for their enemies to arrive. He paused, letting that sink in. But we're not helpless. We're going to turn New Haven into a trap. We're going to use our knowledge of this colony, our ingenuity, and our determination to defend our homes. I need everyone to report to the Central Plaza in 1 hour for assignments. Families with young children will move to the deep shelters where you'll be safe. Everyone else will help prepare our defenses. Danny's voice became firmer. We came to this planet to build something good. We've worked together for 3 years to create a home. Now we're going to fight together to protect it. The Vakoth think we're easy targets. Let's prove them wrong. He ended the transmission and looked out the window again. The peaceful sunrise seemed different now. In 48 hours, this quiet colony would become a battlefield. Danny just hoped his people were ready for what was coming. He left his office and headed for the Central Plaza. There was work to do.